Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's session. And today is the second day. And today we are going to look at how to create OIC instance, what are the application roles in OIC, what is the messaging pack, which is very, very important while you create the OIC instance, about IDCS. IDCS stands for Identity Cloud Service, how to create user in IDCS, and we will walk through the navigation of OIC. In the yesterday's class, I have described the cloud, what cloud is, cloud computing, what are the benefits of using the cloud, what is OIC, what are the features of OIC, and the benefit of OIC, and how to create Oracle Cloud account. So guys, do you have any question from the last session? Anyone, any question can ask, please. And I hope you are able to create the account too. Lakshmi Priya has told me that she has created the account successfully. Anyone, Kalyani, are you able to create your instance now?
No, Ankur, I don't know. It's not responding and I did not get any email. So I'm going to use Hari's account.
Okay, fine. And Tereshwar, what about you?
Yeah, I was able, I got an email and I'm able to log in. Yesterday,
Cool.
the page which you showed, I was able to. I will share once when you say.
Cool. Okay, great. Anyone has tried to create account?
Yes, Ankur, like I created successfully my account.
Okay, great. So now I have the Lakshmi's account and I will use the same. So what I'm going to do, I am going to log in into the account now, wherein I will show you a couple of things. Let me know if you can see my screen, the oracle.com, the browser actually. I hope you can view that.
You can see your screen.
Okay, now how to log in into the cloud? So you need to go to this oracle.com cloud sign in, wherein you need to put your cloud account name, which you have used while creating the Oracle Cloud account. So click on the next button. And yesterday I have explained there are two sign-in option. One is the IDCS, which is identity provider, and the second is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Direct Sign-in. So Oracle recommends to use this sign SSO application. Click on a continue, and here you see the URL will be changed and the URL will be the IDCS URL. And here I am going to put the username and then password. Okay. And the reason here you see whatever reason you have selected while creating the account, it will be visible here. The home reason when you create your while logging into the OCI dashboard. And here you see yesterday I explained that the trial credits used here, it will be visible and it will also show you the trial days elapsed. Guys, I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yes,
now,
we are able to hear.
Okay, fine. Now here you see the Hamburger menu, wherein you will see different services, and all are enabled as of now because we have started this tenancy now. And here you see the compute instance, block storage, object storage, file storage, and we have another option called application integration and then integration. So when you create your instance, immediately all the instances, all the services will not be provisioned, which means it will take time to provision your full tenancy to use all the services. And once your account will be provisioned successfully, then you will get an email. Then only you can try to create the integration instance. Before that, if you try to create an integration instance, you may get an error that you are not authorized to create an integration instance. Now, similarly, as I explained yesterday, we have the platform services, and under that platform services, we have the integration too. If you click on the integration, it will take you to this different URL. Okay, tenancy not subscribed to this reason, might be it's on the a different reason, that's fine. So basically you don't need to use this integration because the integration instance which you will create under this platform services, it will be in your Gen 1 instance. Now, if you need to create the new customers are using this application integration and then integration. So the integration which you create in that instance will be in the Gen 2. Now here, if it is not visible, you have to pick a compartment from the left side, and default compartment is on the name of your tenancy. And by default, one managed compartment for PaaS is also created. This is your root compartment actually. Now, in order to create a new instance, you have to come to this page and click on this button called Create Integration Instance. Just click on this. Once you click on this, you will see this page wherein you need to enter the display name, the addition, and then license type, then message packs. So you should be aware each and every information which is visible here. The integration instance name, it's just a simple instance name. It's a user friendly name. Like if you are creating different instances for your organization, like dev, test, production, you can provide the instance name accordingly. I can say OIC dev. You can keep it short, OIC01 for example. Okay, or you can say OIC dev 01. Now you have the addition which you need to select. By default, enterprise is selected and then addition. Sorry, the second addition is the standard. Standard, there's a difference between standard and then enterprise. If you want to compare it, what you can do, you can click on this information icon and then learn more, wherein you will be redirected to one of the Oracle official documentation, and where it will show you what exactly the difference between standard and then enterprise. So by default, enterprise is there, but if you want the standard, you can opt that one also. And here you see the difference, standard and then enterprise. In the standard, you will get the integration, you will get the visual builder, you will get the standard adapters. Enterprise adapters you will get in the enterprise version only. The process feature means the process cloud, you will get in the enterprise. B2b you will get into the enterprise. Integration insights you will get only the enterprise. File server you will get in both the instances, and embedded recipes, business and technical accelerators you will get in both. And apart from this green sign, you see the plus also. What plus means is, you see plus means enterprise. Here you see available in generation 2. If you are creating your instance in Gen 1, then you will not get the file server, you will not get the embedded recipes, and you will not get the integration insight too. So make sure, if you want to use all the features of the OIC, you opt the enterprise, and better to use the enterprise. Okay. So this is the difference between standard and an enterprise. Now, license type. There are two types of license type. One is subscribe to a new Oracle integration license, or use my existing Oracle Fusion middleware license with Oracle integration. For example, if your organization are using the on-premise middleware licenses, and you want to transfer your on-premise licenses to the Oracle cloud, you can use this. Then Oracle will internally handle it, and then accordingly your billing will be started. For the new customer, Oracle recommends to use this subscribe to a new Oracle integration license, and for your demo purpose also you select that. This is very, very important to understand messaging packs, and the billing of your integration instance depends on this messaging packs only. So license type, you see subscribe to a new Oracle integration, and below that you see one information called allows for 5K message packs per hour. Similarly, for the second option, you see allows for 20K messages packs per hour, which means by default the message pack is 1, which means if you select this option and you select 1, then in a single hour, let's suppose you have two integrations developed in the integration feature. Okay, and you have the one messaging pack, which means your integration can handle 5,000 messages in a single hour. Which means if you see in a day 24 multiplied by 5, then whatever count will come, then you can transfer those number of messages for a single pack. If you have a 2, then again you can transfer 10,000 messages packs per hour. Maximum you can provide 12 for that. For this, allow for 20K messages, which means in a single hour, you can have 20K messages, but the maximum limit for that is 3. Then whatever, if you are using, either you are using this one or this one, maximum you can have 60,000 per hour. For this first option, you can have maximum 12 messaging packs. For the second option, you can have maximum 3 messaging pack. Right? So let's suppose you are using the 1 messaging packs, and then in single hour, you can throw 5,000 messages for an integration. And the size of a single message is limited to 50 KB. Let's suppose you have one integration, which means the payload size I'm talking about. Let's suppose you want to transfer the employee data to your target application. And in that employee, in that particular payload, it's exceeding the 50 KB, which means let's suppose it's 70 KB. Then it will be counted 2 messages. The 2 messages will be deducted from your messaging packs. I hope it's clear to everyone. Any question, anyone on this? It's very important to understand what messages packs is. Hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Ankur, one
Ankur,
question.
I have a question here.
Please go on.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello.
Will there be any option
okay,
to
got
change
it,
this
yeah.
license type after we create it, Ankur?
Yes,
Or is
yes.
it like once
You
you
can-
create it, it will be fixed?
You can change the license type. You can add or decrease the messages packs to after your instance is created.
Ankur, Deepak, this side.
Ankur.
If you say the messages pack,
Yeah, Deepak,
what does
please.
it mean?
Word. I will ask later.
Deepak, please go on.
What I'm saying, actually, message packs, what does it mean in terms of OIC? So if we're transferring the data, so and at the time this error message or something, some new messages coming up. What it stands for basically.
So messaging packs is, so let's suppose you want to create one integration from Salesforce to Oracle Sales Cloud. Okay. You are in that integration, you have subscribed an event from the Salesforce. Let's suppose the opportunity event. Let's suppose, and you are transferring this opportunity to the Oracle Sales Cloud, and you are converting into the lead into the Sales Cloud. So when your OIC will be triggered, Salesforce will send a XML payload to your OIC, and there will be a size of that payload. It can be a 50 KB payload. It can be a more than 50 KB. And then when you will transfer the data to your Sales Cloud, then also you are sending a XML payload to your Oracle Sales Cloud. Okay. Let's suppose in that whole transaction, there are 3 messages. I mean, you are getting the data into the integration, you are sending the data to the Oracle Sales Cloud. Okay. While you subscribe the event, let's suppose there's a message which is coming of 50 KB. And then while you are sending this to your target system, the payload size is becoming 70 KB, which means total 120 KB. Then for a single transaction, 3 messages will be deducted from your 5,000 messages. I hope it's clear.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Ankur,
Yeah,
can you
Ankur.
please repeat this point? Megameter here, could you please repeat this point?
You want me to repeat that?
Yeah, please repeat.
So Megha, basically what happens is when you create your OIC instance, you need to select the message packs. If you have one message pack, which means in the whole OIC, whether you are using the VBCS, whether you are using the integration, whether you are using the PCS, you can flow only 5,000 messages in a single hour. If you have a 2 packs, you can transfer 10,000 messages, and one message equates to the 50 KB, means 50 KB equates to the one message. If your payload size is exceeding the 50 KB, let's suppose 70 KB, then 2 messages will be counted for that.
That means the payload will be divided into two
Yes, correct.
messages. Correct.
Correct. Even you are sending the JSON or the XML or the file, the payload internally in the OIC will be converted into the XML, and then depends on the payload size, the message will be counted. If
it will be split into two separate JSON or XML, you were saying.
so, by default, when the message comes into the OIC, it will be converted into the XML only.
Okay. Okay.
Please go ahead now, Gaurav.
Yeah, Ankur, yesterday you mentioned that compartments are like analogy to our departments, like in our organization, right? So instances are like in one organization, there can be only one instance, or we can create multiple instances.
As
and,
many as
like
instance you want, as many as instance you want to create, you can create that. There is no limit. Then you will be charged accordingly. If you have single instance, and depending on the messages packs, you will be charged.
Okay, thank you.
So Ankur, here we can maintain the different databases, sorry, different instances, just like development, test, and production.
Yes. Okay. Now I'm going ahead with a single messages pack. We have a show advanced options too. So in this show advanced option, you click on this restrict network access. This is the new feature of the OIC which you can use. So by default, the integration instance which you create, it will be accessible from your public internet. You can access it from anywhere. But if you want to restrict your OIC for a CIDR block, you can provide that CIDR block, then only the IPs which is in the CIDR block will be able to access your OIC instance. So this is for the network restriction. So you have the VCN as well. You can create the VCN in the Oracle Cloud, and you can select the VCN here and then IP ranges. Similarly, you can provide the virtual cloud network OCID. And I'm not using that one for the time being, and click on a create button. So once you will click on a create button, your integration instance will start creating. New integration instance has successfully started creation OIC dev01. Once your instance will be created, it will be in the running state. If you click on this display name, I wanted to tell you one more thing here. Each and every resource you create in the Oracle integration, sorry, Oracle Cloud, whether it's a OIC instance, whether it's a Linux instance, whether it's a API instance, there's a unique ID of that resource called OCID. OCID stands for Oracle Identifier. Oracle Cloud Identifier, you can show it. Sometimes Oracle asks you, when you raise a service request, Oracle may ask you what is the OCID for that instance. So you can go to that instance, copy that OCID and provide this to the Oracle. Here you will see OCI, which is fine. So this is the OCID, which represents the unique identifier of your resource. If you create a Linux instance, for that also you will have the OCID. And once your instance will be created, you will see the edit button. And once you click on an edit button, you will be able to modify your instance in terms of you can change the license type, you can enable the network access, you can change the message packs too. Let it be created. It will take a few minutes to create. Okay. Any question on this OIC instance creation, anyone? I hope it is clear.
Yes, Ankur.
Fine. Now, if you want to see your tenancy details, what you can do, you go to the administration and then tenancy details. When you create your Oracle Cloud subscription, you will be assigned a support identifier. So CSI number, which you can use to raise the service request. And also for your tenancy, you have the OCID too. Right? This is your tenancy information. You can use this CSI number to create, you can create an account support.oracle.com with the same username, with the same user, with the same email ID, and then you can register that CSI, and the CSI number will be allocated automatically, and then you can raise your tickets. Now here, another important thing which I wanted to show you. Let me see if the instance is created or not. First of all, before I move forward. No. Fine. Go to the identity. Now I wanted to explain the IDCS, Identity Cloud Service, what IDCS is. So in order to log in into the IDCS, here you need to go identity and then federation. Under federation, click on this Identity Cloud Service, and this is the IDCS console. For each and every cloud account, you will have one Oracle IDCS. This is the unique identifier of your IDCS. And if you click on that, you will be landed onto the admin console. You can bookmark this page if you want to log in into your admin console. So in order to log in into the admin console, the user must be the part of IDCS group. So groups you can see from here, identity and then groups. So by default, okay, administrator, not this one actually, here you will see. I will show you. So basically what IDCS stands for Identity Cloud Service, which is a centralized portal of Oracle Cloud, which secures all your Oracle Cloud services. You can create users, you can create groups, you can view the login reports, you can view all the groups, you can manage all the applications or instances which you create here. You can secure it as well. So here you will see the Hamburger menu, the dashboard, it shows the users, how many users you have, how many applications you have, groups, password, logins, 2 times logged in, all reports. If you want to create a new user, click on the users. It will show you all the users. Let's suppose I want to create a user. So in order to create a new user, go to this IDCS console and then click on an add button. And let's suppose I want to create my user here, Ankur Chan, and then first name, last name, username or email. Let's say Ankur Chan, this one. And you have an option to segregate your username and then email. If you uncheck this, you will be allowed to enter the username. Let's say demo user. So you need to use this demo user in order to log in, and this email ID will be used to reset your password like this. Click on the next button, and here you see there are 2 groups by default. One is the IDCS administrator. If you select this, then user will become the IDCS administrator, which means user will be able to log in into the admin console and can do all these activities like user creation, group creation, and click on a finish button. Here you see one email will be sent on my email address using which I can reset the password. And let's suppose you have created one user and somehow the email could not be sent to this user, or the link has been expired to reset the password. So you have an option to click on the reset password. If you click on the reset password, the email will be sent to this user and user will be able to reset his password. You can remove this user from here. You can deactivate this user temporarily if you want it. Then if you deactivate it, user will not be able to log in into the Oracle Cloud. Here you see the federated. By default, all the users are authenticated by the Oracle Identity Cloud Service. Let's suppose in your organization, you have one SSO. It might be a Okta, it might be a Microsoft AD, it might be other application SSO. If you want to if you want to create the federated user and if you want that your user needs to log in via the SSO credential. So here we have one option called go to the security and go to the identity providers. You have to add one SAML IDP. So it can be a Okta, it can be a Microsoft. So you can integrate your Okta, you can integrate your SSO application with the IDCS. And once it is integrated, you will be able to log in with your SSO application. And on the IDCS login screen, right? On the IDCS login screen, you will see two options. One as the simple login, and there will be a link to login into the SSO application via the SSO, right? And make sure if you want your users to log in with the SSO, so make sure you will create the same user here too with the same email address, and you will make it federated and then update user. Once user will be federated, users will not be able to log in with their IDCS, and user don't need to the IDCS password to log in. They need to use their SSO credential. You have the settings, you have a different other settings, default settings like this time zone, the language setting, the contact email address. You have the user settings option, allow primary email address as an optional, partner settings, and then notification. You can manage all the notification, what type of notification will be sent, like welcome notification, self-registration, welcome registration. You can all customize them. The password policy, you can customize that. By default, user the password will be expired in 120 days. If you want to change it, you can change that too. Auto unlock account 30, previous password remember 4. You have the branding too. You can change the default branding, which is Oracle branding, to the custom branding. You can upload your organization logo to see the brandings. Like here earlier you will see the Oracle Cloud, or the here if you want to change all these logos, you can follow this custom branding. And we have other settings to do. You can do that. Reports, if you want to see the report, system log, notification delivery status, the successful login attempts, if you click here, you can see who has logged in at what time and using the which provider. You can download that report. You can see the 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and custom dates. You can view other reports too, the unsuccessful login, dormant user, application access, and other stuff. So this is all about the IDCS. So this is the unique. So this is your SSO actually. Any question, anyone on this?
Ankur, I'm not seeing that actually create instance somehow. Can you please show me how you came actually?
The Oic instance creation?
Yeah.
I will show you. So you joined late, is it?
Yeah, I joined.
No problem. I will show you again. Any question on this IDCS? Okay. Now, when you create a user, it's simply you have created user. Users will be able to log in into this console. I will show you. IDCS, if you select here, my console, there's another console is my console. If you want to reset your password, you can do it from my console. You have other options, my profile, admin console, my access token, sign out. You can see my profile from where you can change few things, change my password, email option, security, my access, my request, my consents. User will not be able to log in your YC. So the demo user is not authorized to log in into the OIC as of now. I will show you all the use application roles which is applicable for the OIC. Now go back to your application integration. Now, in order to create a OIC instance, Prasad, you have to log in into the OIC dashboard, OCI dashboard, and make sure you will have the privileges to create that resource. Go to this integration. So here you see my state. Now the instance is active. In order to create a new instance, click on this and then you can enter the information and then provide addition, license type, messages, packs. Prashad, I have already described each and every. You can follow the recording. If you have an issue, you can ask in the next session.
Yeah, thank you.
Now here you see the display name, the active, which means that the instance has been activated. Now you can edit this instance, right? You can change the addition, you can change the messages pack, you can change license type, you can enable. Okay, here we have one more option. By default, when you create this instance, there will be a link to it. If you, I will show, there will be a link to it, okay? My OIC, something like this. But if you want to customize that link, you have an option, click on this edit. You can provide the custom endpoint. For example, if your company name is example.com and you want to have the myoic.example.com, so you can provide the host name and then it should be a valid host name, which should be a HTTPS enabled. Okay, so there will be a certificate applied to that host name. Then only you can customize that host name. And here you have to choose the vault. You have to create a vault wherein you will provide that certificate. Fine. And here by default, the Visual Builder file server instance is not enabled. You have to enable those instances. Number of 20K messages packs per RY. So which option we have selected? Oh, we have selected this one. So we can change that. That's fine. Fine, you have to enable those options. Like if you want to use the Visual Builder of the OIC, you have to enable this. If you want to use the file server, you have to enable this. Till the time it's not enabled, you will not be able to use them. So in order to enable that, click on this enable. Your instance will be refreshed and the Visual Builder instance will be enabled. In order to enable it, click on this enable and then enable. It will be in the updating state. Right? Now, here you see we have created our instance OIC dev01. So every OIC instance has different application roles. So in order to view the application roles, go to this IDCS and go to the Oracle Cloud Services. If you go down a little bit, you will see that instance here. OIC dev01. So this is the unique instance name. You can see OIC dev01, which you have created here. Go to this application roles. So here, why there are 4 roles only? There should be a multiple role actually. Service invoker, service deployer. Maybe, I don't know why they are showing there. Okay, yeah. 5, earlier it was 4. Let me just refresh it. It should be 7 or 8. It might, okay, got it. So it is because your instance is refreshing and more roles will be added once your instance will be created. But now let me just explain the 5 roles as of now. So you see OIC dev01. So There are different application roles, and you cannot create your custom application roles. So here you see the first role is the service administrator, which is the super role. The user who are assigned to this service administrator will be able to manage your OIC instance, means whatever features you have in your OIC like integration, visual builder, file, process, they will be able to manage. They can create any artifacts like the integration creation, the web application, the process, the integration insights model, and other thing. So which means if you assign this service administrator, the user will become the administrator of this instance. The service administrator doesn't mean that it will become the administrator of your tenancy. No, the user will become the administrator of your tenancy. Oh, sorry, this instance only. So in order to assign, so by default, the admin will become the service administrator, the Lakshmi Priya. Okay. If you want to assign more users, click here and then click on this assign user, and here you will see the user list here, check and then okay. Now this user, now we have 2 users assigned to this role. If you want to see who all users are the administrator, click here and then you will see the list. If you want to unassign it, if you want to revoke it, click on this revoke users and then select it and then okay. Now we have single user only. Fine. And the second role is the service developer. So this service developer role is limited to the developers. If you want to restrict access of your OIC, so you want that your user cannot do each and everything, so you can provide the service developer role. If you provide a user a developer role, then user can create artifacts like they can create integrations, they can create web applications, they can create processes, they can create integration insight models. They will not be admin, they cannot do each and everything that admin can do. Similarly, if you want to assign user, click on assign users and then go. Service deployer. Service deployer role is limited to the VB instance. It's not for the integration. So the service deployer role is something like if you create a web application and you want your users to deploy your application, you want your user can publish the application on the live. So you can provide this role. Service invoker. Service invoker is very limited role. So when you create the integration or when you create the REST or SOAP API in the OIC, and you want to call it. So whenever you call the REST API of the OIC, you need to pass the username and then password like basic authentication. If you provide the, let's suppose I have a user Ankur. If you provide the Ankur Jain email and then password to the user or the consumer who want to call the OIC APIs, the user can log in into your OIC instance. They can delete the OIC integrations. They can modify the OIC integration, which you don't want. So you want the limited access, which means you want only a user who can only call the services, but you don't want that user to log in into your OIC instance and do the stuff. So for that kind of requirement, you can create a service invoker role, so a user and then provide a service invoker role. So the user will be able to call the services. They cannot do anything in your OIC instance. I'm sorry. The service monitor role. The service monitor role is like for the admin related stuff. Admin means the operations users actually. Let's suppose you have created integration and you want your operation team to monitor your integration. What is the number of errors? What is the number of success? The response time of your integration, the activity stream. You don't want such users to develop the artifacts like the integration, connections, and then lookups. So you can create a user and then provide the service monitor role. They will not be able to create the artifacts. Once they will try it, they will get the error that you are not authorized to create the artifact. But they will be able to go to the monitoring tab and can do the stuff. I'm sorry. Make sense? Maybe it is taking time. So after you create the user, you have to provide the application role to the user so that they can access your Oic instance. I hope it is clear to everyone. Yes or no?
Ankur, it means like all the users can be controlled through IDCS only, right?
Yes.
Whoever wants the OIC access and what level they need it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Not only OIC, whatever services you create, whether it's the API CS, the separate visual builder instance, you have to control the roles or the users from there.
Okay. Through IDCS only. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And a lot of questions being asked in the interview too, what IDCS is, what is the capability of IDCS. Right. Now you understand the application roles, you understand the IDCS, what IDCS is, what you can do, how to create users, what are the various application roles of the OIC, how to assign users to the application role. Now it's updating, but anyways, we can access it. Now how to access the OIC instance? So click here and then, okay, it's modifying, hence it is not allowing me. That it should be updated. But let me copy that and go here and then paste it here. So here, this is your, so if once it will be updated, you can click on the service console from here or go here and then click on the service console and you will be landed onto this IC home page. And this is your OIC. You can bookmark this page and then log in directly into your OIC instance. So here, this is your OIC instance name. This is a unique ID, unique string, which will be generated automatically. Integration.ocp.oraclecloud.com/IC/home. So this is the home screen of your OIC. Now, if you want to see what version you are using, sometimes you are being asked which version of OIC you are using, how to get that. Click here and then click on About. Here, the version of your OIC is 21.2, which is the latest version. This is the service instance name, this one. This is your IDCS domain. We are using the Oracle integration. Bring your own license, yes, true. And the number of messaging pack is 1. So this is the information of your OIC. Now here, on the IC homepage, okay. So in order to log in into this OIC instance, make sure when you create the user, you provide either role, whether the administrator, developer, deployer, service invoker, monitor. Till the time you provide an access of the application role, user will not be able to log in into your OIC screen. So better create a user and then provide a application role there as per the requirement. Now here, and this is the, and once you will try to log in here, the user will be asked, the user will be landed onto the IDCS login page and they need to enter their username, password, and then only they will be able to log in here. Now, on this home page, you will see the different stuff, try a recipe, accelerators and recipes. So these accelerators and recipes are just the inbuilt integrations which you can use as a template. There are two stuff, accelerators and recipes. You see, accelerators are run ready business integration or technical patterns you can configure and activate. Recipes are starter template that give you a head start. So here, these are the templates, or you can say accelerator or the recipe. So if you understand, it's better. It's just a template. Here you see, if it is a recipe, it will be indicated as a recipe. If it is an accelerator, then it will be accelerator. If you click on a search all, you will see. There will be few accelerators too. Yeah, here only we have one accelerator. So what is recipe? So a recipe is nothing. It is just a full-fledged integration developed by Oracle, and it's embedded here. So you can install this in your integration feature, start using it. You can customize it as per your requirement. So basically it is just a base of your integration. So for example, if you are looking to create an integration between ERP and then Amazon S3 bucket, and it will be an import financial general entry. So you can activate this recipe and then you can modify it as per your requirement. Let's suppose for this integration, two connections are required. One for the ERP and the second is Amazon. So you can expand this. You can view the full detail of it. Here we are using two adapters, ERP and then REST adapters. You have to configure these adapters. You can see the description, the name of the integration, the package name, the type is recipe, built by Oracle, published on documentation. So if you want to enable this, you can click on this plus. So this recipe will be enabled in your integration feature of OIC. Here you see recipe has been installed successfully and it is visible installed. If you want to activate it, you can activate it, you can delete it from here, which means the recipe will be uninstalled. I will show you that one. So this is all about the accelerators and then recipes. So we have other recipes too, you can explore that one. Now here on top, we have a hamburger menu. If you click here, you will see all the in OIC feature as I have explained yesterday, like the process, integration, which is your ICS, B2b, visual builder, insights. And then we have a monitoring to monitor the integration. We have the settings to enable the settings of such things. So if you are an admin, then only you can see this settings option. Now let me explain. Let me just go to the integration first, because we will start with the integration. So this integration section, this integration navigation will take you to this other sub navigation called integrations, connections, lookups, packages, agents, adapter, and libraries. So first go to the integration. So what integration is? Integration is nothing. It is just like an artifact which you create to transfer data from one application to another. Or you can create, if you want to create REST APIs or the SOAP APIs, you have to build, create an integration via that integration option. So here you can collapse that one by clicking on this hamburger menu. You have a different options here. So by default, and here you see we have installed recipes here, hence this recipe is visible, otherwise it will not be visible here. So by default, all the integration which is created or updated by the logged in user will be visible, which means the filter. If you remove this filter, all the integration irrespective of the user will be visible here. So in OIC, you cannot restrict your integration via the logged in user wise. So if you, let's suppose you want, myself has developed one integration and Lakshmi has also developed one integration, and you don't want Ankur to see the integration which is developed by Lakshmi. You cannot restrict in the integration cloud. All the integration can be seen, modified by anyone. Okay. So you have the search. If you want to search any integration, you can simply say echo. Wherever you are used the word as an echo, it will be visible here. We have the filter. If you want to filter your integration by name or last updated by, you can do that. You can view all your integration by the user wise. Who has updated it? You can search it by status. Each and every integration goes via the different statuses like draft. If your integration is the development phase, it will be in the draft. If your integration is completed, it will be in the configured state. If your integration is still in the activating state, it will be in the activating state. If your integration is successfully deployed, it will be in the active state. If your integration has failed to activate, then it will be in the failed state. So you can filter your integration status wise. The types, each and every integration is based on some pattern. You can filter by recipe, technical accelerator, business, extended, or developed, or all. Style, every integration is based on a different patterns. I will explain all these patterns one by one, but little later, and then apply. So one entry in this table shows the name of the integration which you give while creating an integration, the version of it, the pattern which you have selected while creating the integration, the last updated date. You can modify, you hover it, you will see different icons. You can modify it. You can activate this using this icon and the other different actions which you can do on that integration. I will explain this one by one. You can view the details of this integration, how many connections you have used. It will be visible here. What is the connection name, the name, identifier, version, and other stuff. In order to create a new integration, you have to click on a create button. And I told you there are different patterns which you need to use to create your integration. If you have one integration in your drive, you can import it and you have to choose the IAR file. I told you integration file. When you export it, it will be in the IAR extension, which you can choose and then import it. So integration is one of the building block of your integration feature, which is used to interact with your applications. Connections. Guys, do you have any idea about connection? Anyone, what connection is?
Yeah, basically connection is to link between, source system and target system. Just like for the database, we have some DNS name or a file. Is that something like that? Connection?
No, no, Deepak. Okay. So basically what connection is. Now, give me an answer. Let's suppose you are creating a application, and in that application you want to fetch the data from the database. So what are the steps to get the data from database in your, let's suppose it's a Java application. What you will do first? Anyone can answer, please.
We can establish a JDBC connection to access the data.
Yes, absolutely correct. So in order to connect to any application, you have to make a connection. If it is a database, you would be requiring the host name, port, username, and then password. And if you want to consume any REST API, you should have the URL, the endpoint of that REST API. You should have the username and then password. If you want to connect to your ERP system in your Java code or any other code, you should have the ERP host name plus username and then password. So the first prerequisite is to communicate with the application is the connection. Similarly, the connection allows you to connect to the application, and every connection you create in the integration is based on the out of the box adapter. So adapter is nothing, it is the abstract way to connect to your application. It might be your ERP application, it might be your Facebook application, it might be your Eloqua application, it can be your EBS application, it can be your Salesforce application, it can be your REST API, it can be your SOAP API. So in order to interact with any one of the application, the first step is to create the connection, and every connection is based on the adapter. And in order to create a connection, you have to come on the connections screen. Similar to the integration, you have the search, you have the filter updated by. If you cross this, all the connections will be visible here. Now, in order to create a connection, come to the connection and click on a create button. And here you see the list of adapter. You cannot use beyond that list of adapters. So whatever adapters you have to use those adapters only. So you have to pick up the adapter, you have to provide the name of the connection, and then you have to provide the details accordingly. Now, once your connection is created, it will be visible here. It will show you the name of the adapter which you have taken while creating that connection. It will show you the dependency if you have used this connection. So you have to use the connection in the integration to communicate with the application. A connection is nothing, it is just representing the information of your application. For example, if you want to create a database connection, so you have to choose the database adapter and you have to provide certain details in that connection like host name, port, username, and then password. Then this connection will represent all these details. And now if you want to interact with the tables, then you have to use that connection in an integration, and then there you will define the table which you want to use it. Last updated by, you can view. If you click on a view, you will be landed onto this page wherein you will see the ERP cloud host name, username, and then password. You can edit it, you can clone the connection, means you can create a copy of the connection, you refresh metadata and then delete that. You cannot delete the connection if it is being used in the integration. If you try to delete it, you will see the integration, the connection is being used in those integration. First delete that integration, then only you can delete that connection. Right? So connection is nothing, it is the one of the basic building blocks to create a connection with the application. And also you need to understand there are different adapters, and these adapters are categorized in the application adapters, technology adapter, plus social networking adapters. Guys, do you understand the application adapter and technology adapter? What does it mean? Anyone knows about technology or the technology application adapter? Kalyani, do you know that?
Technology means like Oracle ERP or Salesforce, and technology means like DB2 or any other kind of technology.
That's correct. Absolutely, yes. So basically, application adapter means the adapter which is specific to the application, like Salesforce, like the SAP Ariba. Ariba is the application. For that, we have the application adapter. Sometimes someone can ask you what is the difference between application and technology adapter. And tell me one thing. Let's suppose you want to connect to one of the application in the world, whether it's the EBS, whether it's the Salesforce, whether it's the custom application. What are the methodology to connect to that application? Praveen, do you know that? What are the technologies you can use to connect to that application in the world? What are the various ways actually?
Using APIs.
Okay, fine.
Usually any of the middleware we will be using to connect to any of the third-party application.
No, middleware is just a technology. Middleware is the platform which is used to connect to the application via different methodologies. I am asking what all data sources we have in place to connect to that application. Middleware is just a platform actually. Like Oic or the SOA or the MuleSoft or the Dalbome or Informatica. How you can take data from an application? Deepak, any idea?
Yeah, we should have, I think, first of all, URL and username and password, all authorization and authentication for accessing the application.
Where do you store your data of application?
Database.
It's in database.
Or
File system we will be using. File system,
absolutely,
not database.
absolutely yes. So you store your data into the database, you store your data in the files, you store your data in the emails too. Sometimes you store the S3 bucket. You have the object stored to store your documents. You have the SharePoint as a document library. So this is also the data of your application, right? So there are various ways to connect to the application. You can take data from the database. You can take data from the files. You can take data from the object storage. You can take data from the AWS buckets too. Fine. So these are the technologies which you can use to connect to those applications. Similarly, if you don't have the application specific adapter, you have to use those technologies to connect to that application and take the data. So we have that technology adapter kind: REST adapter, SOAP adapter, FTP adapter, database adapter. So if you search it, you can see we have the Oracle database adapter. So this Oracle database adapter comes in which technology? Adapter. Sorry, technology adapter. Now tell me, the Salesforce adapter is in the application specific or the technology specific?
Application.
Specific.
Why? Why?
Specific to the application, Salesforce application.
Correct. Now tell me, the REST adapter will come in the technology specific or the application specific?
Technology specific.
Technology.
Absolutely, because REST is a technology, it is not specific to an application, because REST APIs you can create in any one of the applications. So it will come in the technology. Now tell me, SOAP adapter will come in which category?
Technology.
Correct. Now tell me, MySQL adapter will come in which technology? In which technology adapter? In which category?
Technology.
Application.
You can connect to many.
No, it's not application.
MySQL database.
It's
Technology
a
only,
technology.
MySQL.
Yes, correct. So ERP comes in which category?
Application.
Application.
Absolutely correct. Now you understand the difference between application specific adapter and then ERP. Oh, sorry, technology specific. So if you don't have, so whenever you create an integration, you will ask first question that how to connect your application. So let's suppose you are trying to connect to any third-party application for which you don't have adapter. So your questions might be with the vendor, do you have REST APIs? If they say no, then the question might be, do you have the SOAP APIs? They may say no. So you can ask, do you have the FTP adapter and your application is capable to create files so that I can connect to the FTP, take the data. So you have to ask the questions from your vendor what kind of mechanisms do you provide to connect to your application, so that you can use the adapter in that term. Fine. So this is the another basic building block, and this is the first step which you have to take before you create the integration. Without connection, you cannot create the integration. So at least two connections should be there in the integration to communicate with two applications. Understood about the connection? It's clear to everyone, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
Ankur, one quick question. Here, when usually in the organization, the architecture team will be there. When the discussion comes, a third-party application, for example, Kronos, or say, which is not mentioned, which you shared, mentioned, either it is a technology or this, or say I have a Maximo system where third party, or I have say a work order application. As you said, the first question will be the REST. The next, say,
no, you will not
have a REST.
So they will tell you what is the mechanisms to connect to their application. You can provide you can say, if you have a REST, I can use that REST API. If you have SOAP, I can also use the SOAP API. But they will tell you what is the mechanisms to connect to their application.
Okay.
But yes, REST is the recommended approach to connect to that application, because they are the lightweight methodology to connect to that application.
Yeah, among this SOAP and REST, will you be presenting a slide or any of the benefits? Because most of the times, with respect to the web services, these two, they will be asking, what is the difference? Why would you go for REST?
Sure.
Or what is the benefit when you will go for a SOAP?
I will describe that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
One question, Ankur. So you told for MySQL, you told it is a technology specific, but whereas Salesforce, so you told it is a application specific, right?
Yes.
Why it is like that?
So Salesforce comes under an application. If someone asks you, I have one SaaS application as a Salesforce. So this is the application, this is a SaaS application. However, MySQL is the database wherein you are storing the data. This is the technology. Similarly, you have an Oracle database. That is a technology where you are storing the data, and these comes under the technology adapters. Salesforce is the application actually, and for which Oracle has provided the adapter.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question, or should I move forward? Okay. Now the third basic building block is lookups. What lookups is? Maybe you have heard lookups in your EBS application. Most of the people are from the ERP background or the EBS background, and there you use the lookup extensively. Anyone can describe the lookup? Why do you use lookups?
Uncle, lookups are basically used for mapping of data. Like in ERP, if we have a meaning of, like, we want to give some definition to some particular values, so we use basically lookups for mapping of data.
Correct. That's correct. Yes. Anyone else?
Yeah, lookup is basically, sets of code or their meaning where we can just map the data with the applications.
Yes. So basically, lookups represents the two terms used differently into different application. Basically, the data, let's suppose you have a country, okay? In one of the application, country is represented by the country code. However, in the target application, country is represented by the country name. So the country is the common field in both the application, but the representation is different. Similarly, you can have the other stuff like codes. Let's suppose you wanted to abbreviate something, and in that, let's suppose you have a IN somewhere and you want to send the India to somewhere. Okay, let's suppose you have the bank details or the bank's name, right? Somewhere it is in the source application, the SBI is used. However, in the target application, you are using State Bank of India. something like this. So the data, the terms is same, the bank and then bank, but the data is used differently in the application. So for that, if you want to look up, if you want to use such type of, if you have such type of requirement wherein from the source application country code is coming and you want to send the country name, then in that case you can create a lookup. A lookup is nothing, it is just like a table wherein you create the different columns and maintain the mapping of two different data sets. And then you can use those lookups in the integration to map those data. So if IN is coming, you will see what you have maintained in the lookup corresponding to the IN, get that and send it to the target application. This is first. The use of lookup is to maintain the data sets represented by two different applications. Second is, if you are using the FTP adapter in your integration, wherein you need to pick up the files from the source directory or the target directory, and you need to specify the file name, which file name you want to pick up. You can hard code these things like the source directory, like the target directory, like the file name, and somewhere you need to use the credentials also, which might vary environment to environment. For example, if you have the OIC DAV01, wherein you are using the DAV FTP and the directory structure may be different. However, when you will move this integration to your UAT or the production, the directory structure might be different. So for such kind of thing, you don't need to hard code all these things in your integration. So better you create a lookup. It is just like a configuration file, create a lookup, maintain all these things which can vary from environment to environment. And once you will migrate your code, you can change in the lookup directly without modifying your integration. Make sense? So you can create a lookup from here. You can also import a lookup. Lookup is nothing. It is just like a CSV file wherein you have the columns and then data. So when you create a lookup, you can export that lookup. It will be exported as a CSV file. You can modify that lookup and then import it back. If you have a long list of data and you don't want to create this lookup manually, you can create a CSV file in a particular structure and then import it. That will be converted into the lookup automatically. Go to the packages. What packages? So maybe you have heard the package in your, any question? So maybe packages you have.
Sorry, Deepak, this side. I've got one question regarding the lookup. So let's say if you do the data migration to the integration, so I'm just going to do the migrate data from procurement side in Oracle ERP purchase order. So we are using the lookup table in Oracle itself. So do we need to define the same lookup table in integration side?
Which kind of lookup you maintain and what is the purpose of that?
No. For example, in purchase order table, we are using some lookup for approval, where we maintain the approval, rejection, and not approved, all kinds of, information.
You can do that too as per your requirement. So lookup is just to maintain the things which can change from environment to environment, or you need to map to certain things like the country code to country name.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. A package is nothing. It is the collection of integration. When you create an integration, while creating an integration, you can define the package, but you cannot create the package from here. A package is nothing. It is the collection of integration. Let's suppose you are creating integration, and you are dividing your integration into two different integration, like the parent integration and then child integration. So what you can do, you can bundle both the integration in a single package. And when you will import this integration from one instance to another, instead of migrating integration wise, you can export the whole package from here and then import it. And if you have a two integration in your package, both the integration will be imported. So package is nothing, it is the collection of integrations.
So it means we don't need to define integration again in second environment.
Absolutely, yes. So migration means you are migrating the integration. So absolutely, yes. If you have two instances, you don't, even you are migrating the integration or migrating the package, you don't need to create the integration manually on the target instance. Either you can export the integration or import it. The whole integration will be imported into your target instance. If you want to export the package, import it, you can do that too. If you have a two integration, let's suppose first and second, then both the integration will be created automatically there.
Okay.
Agents. Sorry. Okay. So basically what agents is, so you know that OIC instance is, OIC is the public service. And it might be possible you have requirement to connect to your database or the application which is running behind the firewall, which means you can access few applications in your network. So do you think that any public service can identify, can communicate with your application which is behind the firewall, guys? Do you think that you can communicate with the application which is in your company's data center from your laptops or machines directly?
No.
Huh?
No, Uncle. There is
No.
one agents are used for masking.
Correct. So basically, if you want to communicate between public service and the private services, you should have some kind of VPN, or you should have some kind of proxies which can enable the communication. Similarly, if you want to create a connection with your database or the application which is running behind the firewall, then you should have the agent. So agent I will describe in detail in the later sessions. But yes, agents are basically used when you want to communicate with the application, means the private applications. If you want to communicate with the SaaS application which is accessible over the internet, then you don't need agents. Agents will come into the pictures only when you want to communicate with the on-premises applications. Adapters, here you can see the list of adapters. Here we have total 71 adapters. It is nothing, it is just a information of each and every adapter which is there in the connections. So here you can see the version of Adobe eSign adapter 1941 pre-installed. You can view the information of it. You can view the documentation of it. It is just like a read page. Libraries. Libraries are nothing, it is the collection of your JavaScript. In integration, you cannot write a single line of code. You cannot combine, you cannot call any Java code. But if you have a requirement to do some certain coding, you want to do some transformation which is not possible in the integration. You want to parse some complex XML which is not possible in the integration. and you think this is possible in the JavaScript. So you can create a JavaScript function in some editor like the Notepad or the JavaScript editor, and you import that JavaScript function here as a library. And once you create a library, you have to choose the JavaScript or the jar, and you have to provide the library function. And once a library is created, then you can use that JavaScript function in the integration. There's a inbuilt action in the integrations which you can use to call the library. Let's suppose you have a requirement to transform the date and time from one format to another, which might not be possible in your integration directly. So you can create a JavaScript function, you can create the source format and change it in the JavaScript function and return it and use it then. So these are the basic building blocks of the integrations feature. Any question, anyone in this place?
Could only JavaScript is supported or Python and other languages?
Only JavaScript. Only JavaScript.
Oh. Can you quickly recap from agent, adapters, and libraries once again?
Can you repeat that?
Can you recap? I mean, agents, adapters, and libraries.
Yeah. So basically, adapters are nothing. It is the way to communicate to the application. For example, if you want to communicate with the ERP, you have to create a connection with the help of ERP adapter. Once you create it, you have to provide some information of the ERP like the host name, username, and then password. If you want to communicate with your Oracle database, you want to get that data from the tables of the database, you can create a database connection with the help of adapter and then provide the host name, username, password, SID, service name, and other stuff. And then you will be able to communicate with your database. So this is adapter. The agents are basically used when you want to communicate with your on-premises applications. Lookups are basically used when you have two applications wherein the same thing is represented into two different terms. For example, in your source application, country is represented by the country code. In the target application, country is represented by the country name. So you can create a lookup, maintain the mapping like IN to India, US to United States, UK to United Kingdom, something like this. And you can use that lookup in your integrations to map those data. Is it clear now?
Yeah, thank you.
Ankur, can we create new adapters?
No,
or
you cannot.
Ankur, yesterday you mentioned about FTP and SFTP adapter. So in which scenario we will go generic FTP and when we will go for secure file transfer?
No. So here we have only one adapter called FTP. This FTP adapter can be used to connect to your FTP as well as the SFTP. So totally depends on the vendor side. They will provide the FTP details or the SFTP. If it is SFTP, you have to provide the details accordingly. If it is FTP, then provides the details accordingly. But this connection adapter is single FTP. We don't have FTP or SFTP. It can be used to connect to the FTPs as well as the secured FTPs.
Okay.
Okay. Now going back, now here we have two more. I will describe this visual builder when we will reach to the visual builder. The process and then my task is related to the process cloud. B2b is related to the B2b feature. Insights is related to the insight feature, which is out of scope. And I'm going to explain the monitoring. So here, monitoring is basically related to your integration feature, and it's very important to understand. So here in IDCS, I have explained the service monitor role. If you want your operations team to monitor your integration, you can provide this monitoring role to them. They will not be able to access that integration because they don't need it. because they don't need it and they don't want to develop an integration. They have just to monitor your integration. So you can provide this monitoring role to them, and then they will have access of this integration monitoring section. Now here you have the usages matrix. It's very, very important, and it is launched recently. So basically here in the usages matrix, you can view the number of messages consumed hourly. So here you see between 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. how many messages are consumed. There, this is called a bar chart. So as soon as the messages will start consuming it, you will see a complete bar wherein it will show between 12 a.m. and then 1 a.m. how many messages are consumed. You can export that list also between the start date and then add date, wherein all the information will be visible hourly wise. So basically it will show you how many messages you have consumed. B2B is for the B2B tracking. Integration is very important. Now, let's suppose you have built 100 integration or the 50 integration, and now you want to monitor integrations, like how many integration got failed, what is the response time, what is the where the integration got failed, how many integration got success, what time, and then blah blah. So for this you have to go to this monitoring and then integration, and we have a certain dashboards which will allow you to monitor your integration. It's for like a administration related stuff. Go to the dashboard. Here on the dashboard you will see a different frames: runtime health, system health, agent health, integration, scheduling, design time metrics, hourly history of last 24 hours, daily history of last 30 days. So runtime health, here you see the green, which means every component of your OIC. Basically in OIC there are different components are being used in the background. Every OIC instance is using some database in the background of which you don't have access. It might be using some file server. So it is using some runtime engine to process the messages, might be BPEL engine. So it's showing the health of that runtime. So if it is green, which means everything is okay. So here you will see the messages received. How many messages means how many messages you have received. It will show the count and the errors, number of errors, and then success rate. So as of now we have 0, but I will show you that one once we will start creating the integration. It's not the number of messaging from the messaging pack. It's totally different. It shows the count of instances actually. Let's suppose you have one REST API which is hit by 10 times. So the number will be 10. It's not the number of messages. It's the number of instances. The system health, every OIC instance is using the database, file server, and other stuff. So it shows the total system health, the service instance, and then agents. So you can view the agent's health here. As of now, I don't have an agent source, so it shows the disabled state. Agents health, so whatever agents you have, it will be visible, the total number of agents and how many agents are down. It will be visible here, and some kind of matrix here. Integration, it is just like a read-only information. How many integration are inactive, how many are scheduled, how many are events, and you can click on a more. You will be reached to this integration. Click on this more. Here it will show you the integration instances. I will show you that also. Scheduling, how many are schedule integration, the design time matrix. It's very useful if you want to view how many connections you have in your integration, how many integrations you have, how many adapters you have, and more. You can bifurcate in integration wise, connections wise, lookups wise, packages wise, agent wise, adapter wise, library wise. It's just a read only information. You can see other bifurcation, like how many integration you have, app driven wise, basic routing, scheduled one, and then how many integrations are using FTP adapter, how many integration are using Oracle Engagement Cloud ERP adapter. So basically it's This information is useful when you want to migrate your whole instance, and maybe this information is required to for the sizing purpose. Similarly, for the connections, so how many connections, so how many FTP adapters you are, so how many connections you have based on the FTP adapter, how many connections you have on the engagement cloud, how many connections you have on the REST. Similarly, how many lookups you have, how many packages you have, how many agents you have, how many adapters you have, how many libraries you have. So it is just like a design time matrix. On this screen, you have this view option, activity stream, and then design time audit. So activity stream is nothing. It is just like the activities in your integration. So for example, in your integration, you are taking the data from Salesforce system and sending it to the Oracle Sales Cloud. In that whole integration, you may have a different activities, like you are looping, you are making a if else block, you are creating a file, you are sending the target, you are sending the data to the target system. So you are using the different activities. So all these activities will be tracked here, and then you have an option to download these activities also. The design time audit. So this design time audit is also very useful. So it shows what user has done what. So let's suppose there are two users who are developing the integration, creating connections. So all these activities, the audits will be logged here, and then you can download it. For example, you have created a connection and some user has logged in your OIC instance, has deleted that connection. So it will be logged here. And then accordingly, you can identify who has done what. You can download that as well. In a certification, there's a one question, what you can do from the dashboard, what logs you can download. You can download the activity stream, you can download the design time audit. So there will be a multiple checkboxes wherein you need to select activity stream plus design time audit. You can download both of them. Hourly history for last 24 hours and daily history for last 30 days. So it will show you the last history of the 24 messages, means how many messages are consumed between in the last 24 hours, hourly wise, and it's on the daily wise, means last 30 days. Integrations. If you go to the integration, you have the total instances, wherein it will show how many messages you have received, how many messages are processed, how many are succeeded, how many are errored, how many are aborted. So basically, when your integration will start running and you want to track your integrations, let's suppose you have one REST API, one SOAP API, one schedule integration. So there will be 3 entries here, and might be possible in the REST you have 4 instances, in the SOAP you have 10 instances, in the in the schedule integration you have the 15 instances. So all will be grouped, and here you will see 5 messages received for the REST. For the SOAP you have 10 messages received. For the EBS or for the schedule you have received 15 messages, and then accordingly how many processed successfully, how many got succeeded, the number, how many are in the errored, how many you have aborted. Aborted means you have aborted this integration, which means you don't require it further. Means the instance, not the integration, sorry. You can search it, integration name, to track it. You can filter it also. You can filter by the last update or the name. You can do it in the last. You can, by default, the integration instances will be visible of the last 1 hour for the performance reason of this dashboard. But you have an option to track the last 6 hours, last 1 day, last 2 days, last 3 days in retention period. In retention period, I will describe you. And then you have an option to select the specific date and then see the integration instances between those dates. Fine. And you have the agents. If you want to monitor, your agents, you have to come onto this agent screen and you can view the agent is up or down. And I will show you this later. Tracking. Tracking means you can track each and every instance from here. As of now, nothing is here because we don't have any instance of the integration. So you can view the integration instances. For example, if you have a REST integration where you have 5 messages, so there will be 5 rows here, and you can open each and every instance to track it end to end. If any integration instance got failed, it will be logged in the errors. And here you can see the errors, track errors. Errors by integration means grouping, error by connections, error recovery job. You can abort it, you can resubmit the failed integration. Later, I will describe what all types of integration you can resubmit. Any question on this, please?
I have one question. If somebody deletes an integration by mistake, is there any backup or something like that? Like
No.
Before deleting, it goes to some repository or something like that?
No, it's deleted permanently and you cannot recover that.
Okay.
Ankur, I have a question. Just now the screen where you are showing, when you say resubmit or republish, so it will clearly show from the source or target, right? The errors.
Yes, yes. It will show you where the error occurred actually. I will show you that.
Yeah, because usually in middle, the monitor guy who will be there, he should be quickly able to route it, whether it is from the source or target, depending upon the error message.
It will show you basically the fault location where it got failed actually.
Okay.
I hope this dashboard is clear to everyone. Fine. Let's go back and then use this settings section. So we have the settings section here. Data retention. This is very, very important actually. Here you see control how Oracle integration retains your historical data. Runtime instances data is purged to free up space for the newer data. So basically, let's suppose you have the database. I'm not talking about this OIC database. You are using the database wherein you are keeping your application data. And the database size is 500 GB. So you are using it very extensively. So there will be a day then wherein your database size will be, all the size will be exhausted. So what you will do in order to free the space? How do you maintain your database? So if you will not free some data,
archive it.
Absolutely. Or that is called purge actually. So you need to purge your old data time to time, whether you are using the 1 TB data, 1 TB storage, 2 TB or the 100 TB. There will be a day. If you will not purge your data time to time, there will be a day where your database will be exhausted. So for that, you need to purge your data time to time, which you don't need it. Whether you will retain your last 30 days data and then older than that, delete all the data because you don't need it. Or you can retain data for the 60 days. That is called retention period. So when you need to purge your data, you need to define the retention period. Retention period is nothing. It tells you for how long you want to keep the data, for how old data you want to keep in your database. That is called retention period. Similarly, here we have the retention 2 as well. Here you see standard setting. So by default, Oracle database keeps only the instances of the last 3 days. That is called retention period, whether it's a successful, whether it's a failure. If you have an integration instance which is older than 3 days, then it will be purged and you will not be able to recover, you will not be able to track it from the monitoring, which means it will be purged automatically because of this retention period. If you want to increase it, you can increase it. If you want to increase that, you can increase that too. But make sure you will have the limited number. Otherwise, data retention period may be in the warning state. It may be a low. Here you see, use standard settings to define the retention period for integration and insights data. Use warning low space settings to define alternate retention settings for integration process and integration data. Use manual purge to immediately purge integration process and integration insights. So basically, if you want to track your faulted instance at least for 30 days, you can keep 30 days and then save it. So if you want to change that standard settings, you have to update it. So here you see, if you go back a little bit, monitoring, integration, and then integration. I have shown you here, we have this data in retention period. So if you have 3 days, so only the 3 days integrations instances of the last 3 days will be visible. That is called in retention period. Fine. Similarly, for the insights too, warning low space settings. When the database spaces reaches a warning state, these more aggressive settings are used. Recommended set lower than standard setting. So let's say you kept it 30 days here, right? And you have lot of fault instances due to which the data retention is in your warning state. So what you can do, you can set the limit here. You can say, if my data retention has reached to the warning state, then use these settings, which means if it is 30 days and if your data limit, if data retention has reached to the warning state, then automatically purge that instances which is older than 3 days. So that's the reason it's saying recommended set lower than standard settings. So it's to free up the space automatically if your data size increased drastically. It might be possible during the peak season, your faulted instance has been increased drastically, due to which the database has been exhausted. So it will be in the warning state and these settings will match and will purge the data. Manual purge. So sometimes you need to take a decision and you want to purge the instances manually. You can do that too. Click on this perform manual purge and then you can provide the details here and click on the purge now. So if sometimes you have a requirement to purge the integration instance manually, you can do that too. And this purge, whatever you have here, that will run on a daily basis nightly. So there's a scheduled job which is up and running on the OIC servers, which will take those settings and will purge all your instances. And this manual purge is totally different. If you purge it now today, let's suppose you are doing it 6 p.m., but your job which is running will also be executed. Make sense? I hope it's understood. It's clear to everyone.
One question. In the manual purge, is there any option to retain some of the messages specific to some integration?
No, you don't have some option like this. You have only the number of days, and you can have the time unit, like you can keep the instances in the last 3 hours too. but you don't have the integration wise retention.
Okay, thank you.
Ankur, you said purge the data from database. Which database are you talking about?
So
Is it
database
the instance that we created just recently?
Yes. So there's a database also created automatically with the OIC, which is in the background, of which you don't have access. Whatever integrations you are creating, the artifacts, the integration instances that are kept in the database itself. Like you do in the software, you have the ERP.
Yeah.
And in the ERP also there might be database.
But we are using this integration as a bridge to communicate the data from source to destination. So we are not storing any data in integration side. We are doing only the configuration. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes. But we are talking about the integration instances. Let's suppose you have created one REST API and 100 consumer is hitting that API. So there will be integration instances which will be created under this, and this will be maintained in your database. That's how it will be visible here only. So every application is using some database in the background. Might be you have access of it or not. Like Salesforce also using the database, due to which you see all the data on the applications. And time to time you purge it also. In the ERP also there will be a database for sure, but you don't have access to it. Similarly, OIC is also using the database in the background.
Okay, thank you.
Import export. So it is related to your buckets, the storage, the object buckets. Let me see. I have also not used that. What happened? Oh. Yeah. So basically it's for to generate a new archive for this integration instance or import a previously saved archive. Maybe you have to configure one storage bucket here, which you create from here actually, instance storage, I guess. I have never used that, but maybe you can keep your integrations in your bucket. Object storage. You have to create a connection with that instance storage first, then only you will be able to use that. Certificates. So certificates basically are nothing. It is like the application certificates. If you need to communicate with the SSL enabled applications, and for that you need to import that certificates, so you can come on the certificates and upload here. There's a question comes in the certification, what type of certificates you can upload, like the trust or identity. So the options will be trust and identity. You have to upload that certificate. Integration, you have the notifications, recommendations, API management, tracing, and then schedule. If you go to the notification, from here, you can manage the notifications of your OIC instance. You need the regular notification about the OIC health, about the OIC integration. So you can maintain the list of recipients. If you need the email to the multiple recipients, you can provide the recipients by comma separated. Critical health alert, send detailed report every 5 minutes. So here you see, if you check this checkbox and let's suppose you enter an email here and then save it. So what will happen in case of these instances, change in the status of any component, like if your agent is down and you need the health report in every 5 minutes till the time the agent is up. So you will get the alert. Database quota exceeds the threshold. File system quota, a quiz unquiz action was performed. One or more agent instance become unavailable. Oracle integration goes into the read-only state. So in all these instances, if you need a detailed report in every 5 minutes, so you can configure this checkbox, and whosoever is entered here, they will get the notification. Hourly report, hourly status, send detailed report every hour. If you need a hourly report of your integration instances, you can use this. Daily status, if you need the daily status, you can keep this on. If you need the integration error report, if an error occurs in the integration, send a detailed report at most every 5 minutes. Here you see the email address. By default, Oracle uses one email address called no-reply at oracle.com to send all the notification, whether it's a system generated or the notification which you configured in your integration. So if you want to configure default email, another email address, you can click on a plus button. You can enter the email address. Once you enter the email address and click on the save button, that one notification will be sent, and from there user have to approve it. And if it is approved, then only you will be able to use that email ID to send the notification. Here you see the use for system notification. Only single email address can be used to send the system notification. All such notification, these are called system notification. But you have an notification action in the integrations too to send the notification, and there you may need to use the different email addresses. So you can enter more email addresses here and then save the setting. You can send now and reset all notification. Go back and recommendations. So basically, by default, recommendation engine is enabled in the mapping. When you create an integration, you have one concept called mapper actually, which allows you to map data from source system to target. And in that mapper, you have one icon which is used to map the fields automatically. So if you want to map it, you have to use this option. And if you want to contribute the integration mappings, so you can enable this. By default, it is enabled. And there's a one question comes in the certification too, that is contribution integration mapping is enabled by default, yes or no. So you have to enable this option. API management is for the API PCS. This is a different service of the OIC, which is called API PCS, API platform, I mean. If you want to integrate, if you want to manage all your REST APIs via the API platform, you can create a connection. And then while you create a REST API and then activate it, you can deploy all your API on the API platform. But before that, you have to create the connection here. Tracing integration level, global tracing on and global tracing off. So when you activate your integration, you have an option to select the enable tracing option. If you enable this option, then you will be able to see in the monitoring what data you have received from the source system and what data has been sent with messaging. So if it is integration level, means you will have an option for each and every integration. If you do this global tracing on, then the tracing will be on for all the integration by default. And if you choose include payload, then payload will be there. If you want to disable it for all the integration, you can do global tracing off. But by default, it's integration level. schedule. This is again a recent feature. I will have to look at what is that actually, but let's leave it for this time. The file server. Okay, here you see file server is currently not enabled. Once you enable the file server here, what happened? Once your file server is enabled, you will see the public IP of the FTP server, and whatever users you create here in the IDCS and then provide the roles, that will be visible here too. And then you can use that users to connect to that FTP. Here you see you have to enable that file server. Let's enable it and let's view this in the next session. So this is all about the navigation of the OIC. Any question, anyone, please? I hope it is clear to everyone. Guys, I'm done for today's session. If you have any question, you can ask. Otherwise, you can ask your question in the last session too, in the next session too. Guys, do you like this session today? What about speed? Speed is good. You want me to slow down something or the speed up?
No, good. I think that's fine.
This is Tejeshwar. I have one question. When the physical IP address the network team basically configures, usually they won't share the physical IP address. So the logical address will be shared. So where do we that configure here when you are
Which physical IP you are talking about?
Server address, say, for example.
Which server address?
190. Any third-party application, usually they will configure the logical address will be shared instead of physical IP address.
No. What's your requirement? What's your requirement?
When you were mentioning about FTP or SFTP, there you basically exchange the certificates and the IP addresses, right?
Yeah, when we will create the connection there, you need to provide the IP addresses. I will show you that in the next class.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Yeah, but like I have one question on the data retention one.
Yes, please.
Yep. When we set up the standard one, right? Like whatever the default settings we have, where actually the data is going to be stored, like the purged. Suppose like if you need it anytime, do we need to request the Oracle people, or like is there any other way to access?
If it is purged, it is purged. Even Oracle will not get you for you. So whatever it is there, it will be visible here only in the monitoring dashboard. So this data is related to the integration instances and it will be visible here.
Okay. It means like only the transaction details, right? Like
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It means like we are going to purge like the transaction details, like also the connections and the integrations. So everything.
So it will be there always, right? So this integration connection is not. So if you have created an integration a year ago, it will be there. It will not. It is not going to be purged. Only the purged, only the integration instances, the transactions will be purged. Not the integration connection lookups. Means the artifact which you are developing.
Okay.
And guys, I hope you have access of the recording. You are able to access the recording and play.
Yes, I'm good. We are able to access.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys. So I will wrap up the session for the day, and we will meet next week, next Saturday, same time, 8 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ankur.
Thank you, Uncle.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.